My name is Emma, I'm 41, and I told my dying sister, who needed my kidney, that she was going to die. Before I tell you about the absolute peace that decision brought me, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. 9 years ago, I was Emma Wilson, a 35-year-old office manager, living a life I thought was perfect. My husband, Ryan, 32, and I had been married for 6 years. We were trying for a baby, and while it brought some stress, it also felt like we were building something special. Then my younger sister, Lily, 28, the golden child of our family, came back home after a mysterious breakup. She claimed her long-term boyfriend, Jason, had cheated on her with men. I felt so bad for her. I really did. I offered her comfort, a listening ear, and even a place to stay for a few nights. Little did I know, I was inviting a viper into my home, and the cracks were already forming beneath the surface of my seemingly perfect life. Looking back, my whole life was a setup for this betrayal. Growing up, I was always the reliable one, the one who worked hard and got good grades, but I was also constantly overlooked. It was like I existed in Lily's shadow, always a supporting character in her dramatic life. When I turned 16, I got an 8-year-old Dodge Neon for my birthday. It was old, dented, and smelled faintly of stale fast food, but I was grateful. A year later, Lily, also 16, got a shiny 2-year-old Mitsubishi Eclipse. It gleamed in the driveway, a stark contrast to my beat-up sedan. My mom, Gina, just shrugged. She needs a nice car to impress her dance friends. It's for her future, Emma. I learned early that my value was less than Lily's in my parents' eyes. My achievements, my efforts, always seemed to pale in comparison to Lily's superficial needs. They spent thousands on Lily's dance competitions, flying her to national events, hiring private tutors, buying expensive, custom-made costumes that sparkled under stage lights. They'd beam with pride in the audience, cheering her on. But when I, at 14, asked for $50 to join a local sports camp, something I was genuinely passionate about, my dad, Jimmy, would complain about the financial burden and tell me to get a part-time job. Money doesn't grow on trees, Emma, he'd lecture, completely oblivious to the thousands they were pouring into Lily's fleeting hobbies. It made me feel like my efforts, my sacrifices, were invisible, my passions insignificant. The double standards were crushing. I got grounded for a month, no phone, no friends, no TV, just for being 15 minutes past curfew after a school play. My parents treated it like a major criminal offense. A few months later, Lily came home 2 hours late, stumbling through the door, her clothes reeking of marijuana. All she got was a gentle lecture, followed by a hug and a "she's just finding herself" from my parents. I saw the deep injustice, the blatant favoritism, but I always tried to please them, to earn their love, to be the good daughter they never truly saw. It never worked. No matter what I did, Lily was always their priority, their golden child. My best friend, Megan Chin, was the only one who truly saw me. "They don't deserve you, Emma," she'd say when I cried after another one of Lily's graduations where my parents barely acknowledged my presence, too busy fawning over Lily's latest achievement. Megan was my rock, the one person I could trust completely, the only one who validated my feelings. When Lily came back, claiming Jason had cheated, I felt a pang of sympathy. She was distraught, dramatic as always, but I genuinely believed she was hurting. I convinced Ryan to help her get a job at his tech company. He was reluctant, saying something about not mixing family with business, but I pushed, just to make me happy. "She needs a fresh start." He agreed, with a sigh. That was my first mistake, a mistake that would unravel my entire life. The red flags started almost immediately. Lily and Ryan developed these inside jokes, these private conversations that would stop the moment I walked into the room. They'd exchange knowing glances, their laughter hushed. Ryan started checking his phone more frequently, always angling it away from me, his thumb hovering over the screen, ready to swipe away. Lily would just show up at our house in the afternoons when I was at work, claiming she just dropped by to see Ryan. "Oh, I just needed to ask him about something at work," she'd say, her eyes a little too bright. I tried to push the thoughts away, telling myself I was being paranoid, that it was just my old insecurities bubbling up. But the paranoia grew, fueled by undeniable evidence. David Cooper, one of Ryan's colleagues, a quiet, unassuming man, awkwardly mentioned seeing Ryan and Lily having lunch alone, looking very close at company events. He tried to backtrack, stammering, but his uneasy eyes told me everything I needed to know. Then Megan called, her voice tight with concern. "Emma, I just saw Ryan and Lily at that coffee shop downtown. They were holding hands. Ryan told you he was golfing this weekend, right?" My blood ran cold. The image of their intertwined hands burned behind my eyelids. I started noticing little things at home, things that chipped away at my sanity. The bed pillows rearranged in a way I hadn't left them that morning, even though Ryan claimed no one was home. A faint, sweet perfume, not mine, lingering in the air. I found suspiciously deleted texts on Ryan's phone. I spent hours trying to recover them, my fingers trembling, but couldn't. The anxiety turned into a gnawing fear, a constant knot in my stomach. Every laugh, every whispered word between them, felt like a betrayal. The breaking point came at a family dinner at my parents' house. The air was thick with forced cheer. I watched Ryan and Lily share an intimate moment, touching foreheads, whispering, a gesture too private, too tender for a sister-in-law and brother-in-law. My heart sank, a heavy stone in my chest. The pain and suspicion overwhelmed me. I couldn't take it anymore. I felt a hot flash crawl up my neck. When I confronted them separately, both Ryan and Lily denied everything, their faces a mask of feigned innocence. They even got annoyed, accusing me of being irrationally jealous, of imagining things. Their blatant lies just twisted the knife deeper, making me feel like I was losing my mind. I knew I had to face the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I planned a weekend getaway to a luxury resort with Ryan, intending to confront him without distractions. I needed a private space where every lie would be exposed, where he couldn't hide behind family or excuses. I wanted a direct confrontation, no interference from family or anyone else. My heart was shattered, but I knew I couldn't live in this deception anymore. I decided that whatever the outcome, I would find the truth and face it. This decision was a turning point. I wasn't a passive victim anymore, I was taking control of my destiny. I knew this confrontation would have huge consequences, but I was ready. I was done being overlooked, done being taken for granted. The first night at the luxury resort was almost perfect. Dinner, dancing, intimacy. It almost made me forget the gnawing suspicion, the cold dread that had become my constant companion. I tried to believe everything was fine, that my fears were just my imagination, a cruel trick of my mind. But deep down, a cold voice reminded me why I was really there. This was the calm before the storm. The next morning, while Ryan was still asleep, I quietly got up and looked out at the ocean. The waves crashed against the shore, mirroring the turmoil inside me. I took a deep breath, telling myself to be strong, to be brave. I was bracing for the worst, but still clinging to a sliver of hope, a desperate wish that it was all a misunderstanding. I mentally reviewed all the evidence I'd gathered, the deleted texts, the golfing lie, that strange earring. It all pointed in one direction, a painful, undeniable truth. I thought about all the years I'd sacrificed for this family, for Ryan, and how little I'd been valued. I realized that no matter how much I loved Ryan, my self-respect was more important. I would never let anyone take advantage of me again. This was the first seed of my final decision, a quiet resolve that would grow into an unshakable force. After breakfast, I didn't beat around the bush. I looked Ryan straight in the eye, my voice calm but heavy with meaning, each word a hammer blow. "Ryan, are you having an affair with Lily?" The air in the room thickened, suddenly suffocating. Ryan's face went pale, his eyes darting away, unable to meet mine. He fidgeted, cleared his throat, but no words came out. The tension was palpable. Everything was about to explode. He finally broke down, his shoulders slumping. He confessed everything, muttering, "It just happened. I don't know how." He confirmed they'd been sleeping together in our marital bed while I was at work, desecrating the most sacred space in our home. His words were a physical blow, a punch to the gut. I felt a hot flash crawl up my neck, my vision blurring. I didn't say another word. I just grabbed my purse, the weight of it suddenly immense, and walked out of the resort immediately, tears streaming down my face as I drove home, the miles blurring through my watery vision. Ryan followed hours later in an Uber, trying to apologize, calling my phone repeatedly, but I remained silent, my heart a block of ice. He packed a bag and left for a hotel, unable to face my empty, broken stare. The family fallout was immediate and brutal. I called my parents, Gina and Jimmy, to tell them, my voice cracking with pain. I was floored when I realized they already knew. "Your sister deserves to be happy too," my mom said, her voice dripping with false sympathy, as if my pain was an inconvenience. My dad, as usual, stayed silent, avoiding conflict, his silence a louder betrayal than any words. That sentence, that casual dismissal of my pain, was a dagger to my heart. Not just the betrayal from my husband and sister, but the cruel indifference, the active complicity, of my own parents. It was a complete abandonment. Within days, Lily, with her usual brazenness, moved in with Ryan. But she wasn't done. She cruelly tagged me in a romantic Facebook post with Ryan, a picture of them laughing, their arms around each other, captioning it, "Feeling loved." It was a deliberate, public execution of my dignity, a final, humiliating blow. Then she texted me, "Sorry sis, didn't mean to tag you. No hard feelings. I hope we can still be close. You'll meet your soulmate someday too." The audacity, the sheer narcissism of it, made my stomach churn. That was it. I filed for divorce immediately. At first, Ryan, out of some fleeting sense of guilt, offered me the house and all our savings. But a few days later, clearly influenced by Lily, he demanded to split everything, his guilt replaced by greed. Luckily, I'd already moved most of our savings to a new, secret account. I sold the house, packed what little I had left, and moved to Minnesota without telling anyone in my family where I was going. I went completely no contact. My old life, my old family, was dead to me. It was a painful, but necessary severance. I landed in Minnesota, a city where no one knew my name, and it was exactly what I needed. It felt like a blank canvas. I rented a small, cozy apartment from Mrs. Eleanor Jenkins, a kind 72-year-old landlady who quickly became a surrogate grandmother to me. She'd bring me homemade cookies and listen patiently as I talked about my day. I got a new job as an office manager at a marketing firm, a fresh start, a chance to prove myself without the baggage of my past. And I started therapy with Dr. Sarah Johnson. She was incredible, helping me process the betrayal, the deep family trauma, and slowly, painstakingly, I began to heal. It was a long road, filled with tears and breakthroughs, but I was determined to reclaim my life. I tried dating once, a few months after moving. It was a disaster. The guy was self-centered, talked about himself the entire night, and kept checking his watch. I swore off relationships for a while, focusing solely on my healing, on rebuilding my inner strength. I learned to trust myself again, to rebuild my self-worth, piece by painful piece. Then, I met James Mitchell. He was 37, a successful chef who owned a bustling restaurant with his twin brother, Jack. I met him when I took a cooking class, just trying to distract myself, to find a new hobby. James was patient, understanding about my trust issues, never pushing, always listening. His large, loving family, especially his parents Martha and Richard, welcomed me with open arms, their warmth a stark contrast to the coldness of my own family. It was a sense of belonging I'd never experienced. I also formed genuine friendships with his restaurant staff, like the boisterous sous chef Miguel and the sweet hostess Olivia. They became my chosen family. My old family tried to creep back in, like a persistent, unwelcome shadow. 9 months after I left, a wedding invitation for Ryan and Lily arrived. It was addressed to my new apartment, a chilling reminder that someone had given out my address. Included was a manipulative letter from my parents, saying families work through problems and claiming Lily desperately wanted me as a bridesmaid. I found out my cousin Tina, who I had briefly reconnected with, had revealed my address. I cut her off too, severing the last fragile thread to my past. My new support system, however, grew stronger. My Aunt Patricia and Uncle Robert, the only ones in my old family who were ever truly kind, visited me in Minnesota, proving their unconditional love and loyalty. Megan even moved to a nearby city for work, strengthening our bond, our shared history a testament to true friendship. For years after I left, when I was happily engaged to James and planning our wedding, Ryan showed up at my apartment. He looked well-dressed, rehearsed, like he'd practiced his lines. He claimed he and Lily were divorcing because she'd cheated on him throughout their marriage. He asked for closure, hinting at reconciliation, a pathetic attempt to rewrite history. I felt a cold, hard anger, a familiar bitterness. "You made your own bed, Ryan," I told him, my voice flat, devoid of any emotion. "Did you really think that golden hoe of hers would suddenly put up a no vacancy sign just because you put a ring on it? She's always been like this." Mrs. Jenkins's nephews, bless their hearts, saw him lingering and promptly escorted Ryan out, banning him from the property. But he wasn't done. The next night, Ryan appeared at James's restaurant, trying to cause a scene. James immediately confronted him, his protective instincts flaring, ready to throw him out. But I stopped him. I wanted to hear it from Ryan himself, to see the full extent of Lily's depravity. "What happened with Lily?" I asked, my voice devoid of emotion, a chilling calm settling over me. He revealed Lily had at least 2 affairs with married men during their marriage, one of whom was a prominent local businessman. He admitted he stayed in the marriage an extra year to hide assets before his divorce from her, a calculated move to protect his own interests. He even told me Lily was back living with my parents, her life in shambles. "That's what I wanted to hear," I said, a chilling calm settling over me. "You can go now." James and his staff made sure Ryan left and was banned from returning. His words, though painful, confirmed everything I already knew about Lily. It strengthened my resolve, solidifying my decision to never look back. The truth, however ugly, was finally out. 9 years after I left, I was 41, happily married to James with 2 beautiful children, a 6-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter. I co-managed our now expanded restaurant business, with 2 successful locations, a testament to our hard work and dedication. My social media presence was limited, a deliberate choice to maintain my peace, and I had absolutely no contact with my old family. My life was full, vibrant, and genuinely happy. Then the messages started. Increasingly urgent pleas from my parents and Lily. My phone buzzed constantly with texts and voicemails. I ignored them for weeks, deleting them without listening. But their persistence was relentless, bordering on harassment. Finally, after a particularly desperate voicemail from my mom, I agreed to a Zoom call, without my children. I wanted no emotional leverage for them. My parents and Lily looked unwell, their faces drawn, their usual arrogance replaced by a desperate fragility. They started with fake apologies, hollow words that meant nothing to me, a transparent attempt to manipulate. Then the real reason emerged, delivered with a forced solemnity. Lily had end-stage kidney failure and needed a transplant. My parents revealed they were struggling financially with Lily's exorbitant medical bills, even facing the risk of losing their house, their voices laced with self-pity. "We need you to come back to Missouri and see if you're a match," my dad pleaded, his voice cracking, "but we also could use some help, Emma, or we might lose the house." The audacity of it, after all these years, after everything they'd done. I discussed it with James. He supported whatever I decided, his love a steady anchor, his presence a comforting balm. I got tested locally. The results came back. I was a perfect match. A cruel twist of fate, or perhaps destiny. I traveled alone to Missouri, refusing to bring James or the children. This was my battle, my final confrontation, and I wanted to face it alone, without any emotional interference, without anyone to soften my resolve. Lily was hospitalized, her condition deteriorating rapidly. She looked like a shadow of her former self, gaunt and weak. I met with the transplant doctors. They emphasized I was an ideal donor, explaining Lily had maybe 6 months without a transplant. They stressed the urgency, the critical importance of my decision, their eyes pleading. They didn't know the history, the years of pain. I walked into Lily's hospital room. The air was thick with the smell of antiseptic and despair. She looked so frail, so utterly vulnerable. I took her hand, my gaze unwavering as I looked into her weak, pleading eyes. My voice was cold, devoid of any hesitation or tears, each word a precise, deliberate cut. "You are the most vile, narcissistic piece of gutter trash I've ever known. You took my husband, you took my family, you took my peace. I only came here so you would know the one person who could keep you alive is the one person you have wronged the most, and now you're paying for that with your life. You're going to die." I turned to my parents, who stood there, stunned and pale, their faces a mixture of shock and horror. "And as for you two," I continued, my voice rising slightly, "I will only spend money on your funeral with the stipulation your ashes be flushed down the dirtiest John the First can find. You chose her. You abandoned me. Now you live with your choice." I walked out as my old family erupted in shock, anger, and tears, their cries echoing in the sterile hospital hallway. That was my payoff moment. I had finally affirmed my ultimate power, completely freeing myself from their toxic grip. The years of pain, the humiliation, the feeling of being invisible, it all culminated in that one, satisfying moment of absolute control. I returned to Minnesota, to my real family, the family I had chosen and built. I felt complete peace with my decision, not a single pang of regret or guilt. It was a profound sense of liberation, a weight lifted from my soul that I hadn't realized I was still carrying. The following weekend, we celebrated my son's birthday, surrounded by genuine love from James, our children, James's family, and Megan. I watched my kids laugh, their innocent joy a stark contrast to the darkness I had just left behind. I felt James's warm embrace, his quiet strength, and knew this was where I truly belonged, where I was truly loved. Our restaurant business had expanded to 2 locations, thriving beyond our wildest dreams, and I played a crucial role in managing them. I wasn't just James's wife, I was a capable, respected business partner, my ideas valued, my work appreciated. I used my office management experience and meticulous nature to help our business grow, proving my worth without needing validation from those who had once dismissed me. My salary was good, my work fulfilling. James's mom told me I was the daughter she always wanted, a phrase I'd longed to hear my entire life. I finally felt I had found where I truly belonged, a place where I was seen, cherished, and loved unconditionally. I sit in my garden now, watching the flowers bloom under the morning sun, their vibrant colors a reflection of my own renewed spirit. I reflect on the journey, the long, arduous path I had walked. I was once a suffocated sapling, living in the shadow of favoritism and betrayal, constantly striving for love that was never given. But now, I've grown deep roots, stretched powerfully towards the light, and blossomed brilliantly in the warmth of truth and genuine love. The biggest lesson I learned wasn't about revenge, but about liberation. Freedom from the chains of the past, from toxic expectations, and from the people who tried to define my worth. I realized that sometimes, the most powerful act isn't to fight, but to let go and protect your own peace, your own happiness. It's about choosing yourself, even when it's the hardest thing to do. I smile. Not a bitter or hateful smile, but one of serenity and contentment, a quiet triumph. I stand up and walk towards my warm home, where the laughter of my children echoes, a symphony of pure joy. This is my new dawn, a beginning free from the shadows of the past, filled only with the radiant light of the future. Thank you for listening to my story. I know many of you out there have faced similar betrayals, similar heartbreaks. What was the hardest part of your journey to healing? Let me know in the comments below. And if my story resonated with you, if it gave you even a glimmer of hope, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel for more real-life stories.